Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing something a little bit different. This video is going to be over my labor and delivery story. I'm doing this video more for myself. However, I hope it does help any new moms who are expecting know what to expect during labor and delivery. This is a video I think I would regret not making in the future, so that's what I'm doing today. So just a little bit about my pregnancy. My baby girl, she was due December 20th. And she ended up being born 2 weeks early on December 7th. On December 6th, the day before she was born, it was just a normal day. I was working from home. I was cleaning like crazy. So let me tell you, the nesting thing is real. I literally scrubbed my baseboards, and keep in mind I was 38 weeks pregnant, but I was trying to keep the house extremely clean because I knew she could come at any time. However, I wasn't expecting her for at least a few more weeks because my doctor kept saying, you know, first time moms, they usually go past their due date. So I really didn't think she was going to come early. So later that night, I went to bed kind of early because of course I was exhausted, but I told my husband, I said, hey, I feel some weird cramps, but I'm not really gonna think too much of it. I had been experiencing Braxton Hicks contractions since I was 25 weeks pregnant, so I just played it off like that was what it was, and maybe some lightning and just her getting ready to make her appearance here in the next couple weeks. So I went to bed and I felt fine, other than those cramps that I was having. Definitely wasn't a contraction, but it was just like cramps. Anyways, so I went to bed that night and Ty came to bed a little later, and around like 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, I got up to use the restroom, which was completely normal because I was 38 weeks pregnant and everything was fine. Came back, literally like put my legs back into bed, and I felt a pop and my water broke. So I ran back to the bathroom and I'm like, Ty, my water just broke. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yes, I'm sure. So yeah, that was really exciting. I didn't have any contractions or anything. Anyways, I had been keeping the house super clean. However, I did not pick up before I went to bed the night before. I thought I'd just do it in the morning because I was so tired. So there were, you know, some things that needed picked up. I hadn't done the dishes, and so yeah, I wanted my house to be super clean when the baby came home. So the first thing I did as soon as my water broke was make our bed and do our dishes. And I almost showered, but I was a little worried because there was some meconium in my fluids. I did do those things and I got myself kind of together and we headed to the hospital. So we got to the hospital around 5:30 that morning, and Ty's mom, she ended up coming to the hospital to meet us there. So we had some family there, and of course, and it was good because my father-in-law and sister-in-law, they were actually coming back to Arizona that day. So we were hoping they were gonna make it for the birth of Scarlett because obviously she was coming. When I got to the hospital, they confirmed that I did have meconium in my fluids, but it was very mild, but they were going to have to watch that. And they also checked me, and I was 90% effaced when I got there, and only 1 centimeter dilated, which I had been a centimeter dilated for a few weeks before, so that wasn't anything new. So I wasn't dilating, but I was completely thinned out. They told me if I hadn't improved by 6 a.m., they were going to start Pitocin. And so they checked me at 6 a.m. and I still was 1 centimeter dilated, but 100% effaced, which is crazy. So they started the Pitocin and my body took to the Pitocin so fast. It was just with the lowest dosage they gave me, and I can't even remember what it was, my body was starting to prepare for labor. So it didn't take much Pitocin to get the show rolling. So I would say about between 7:30 and 9:30 or ish is when I had the contractions. And those babies hurt. Those were the real contractions. Those were the real thing. They were pretty painful, and I told the doctors from as soon as I got into my labor and delivery room that I wanted an epidural, and I wanted it as soon as I could have it. And as soon as I started feeling the pain, I said, let's do it, I want my epidural, and they said, well, you have to get through this water bag first. So I had to wait until I got that full bag of water into my body. And I feel like that literally took forever. They were like, oh, it'll take 20 minutes. And I swear that was the longest time ever, because I'm pretty sure it took at least an hour and a half to get it through my body. But I could be wrong because I was in so much pain at that time. For all you women who do it natural, kudos to you. I couldn't do it. A couple things I was super scared of was number one, the epidural, and number two, if I had to have an episiotomy. So the epidural was nothing compared to the contractions I was having. That was not near as bad as I thought it was going to be. I think it was worse for my husband watching than it was for me. At that point, I was just like, give me whatever, do whatever you need to do to make this pain go away. And when I got the epidural, it was literally night and day. I went from being in like so much pain, and just within like 15-20 minutes, I was completely numb and didn't even feel contractions. I remember my husband coming up to me and looking at the screen and saying, oh, you're having a really strong contraction right now. And I literally felt nothing. So it was amazing. By 1 o'clock, I was fully dilated and I was ready to start pushing. However, I had been pressing that little button that gives you more of the epidural fluids to make you numb. I was really numb and I could not push through my contractions. I probably gave myself too much because I was so scared it was going to hurt again. Anyways, so the doctor said, let's cut back from the epidural and give you about an hour and a half to let that kind of wear off a little bit, and then we will try pushing again. So that's what I did, and it's actually really good. We waited because my father-in-law and sister-in-law ended up making it to the hospital in time. So that all really worked out. Okay, so at about 2:30 p.m. Is when I really started pushing. Also, just to backtrack a little bit, going into the hospital, I was like, nobody's gonna be in the room with me except my husband and my mom, but obviously my mom wasn't there because I gave birth to Scarlett early. But during the time, I was just like, you know, whatever. If my husband's mom wants to be in here, if my husband's dad wants to be in here, if my sister-in-law wants to be in here, I don't even care. It's up to you guys, because at this point, I didn't care at all. So I had my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law in the room with me while I gave birth. So that was super awkward looking back at it now, but I'm really happy they were there because it was a really special time. But anyways, at 2:30 I started actually pushing, and she was just not coming out. I pushed for over an hour, and this was like the hardest part. Nothing hurt. I was completely numb still, so I wasn't in any pain, but by this time I was so hungry. I felt like I was gonna pass out because I literally hadn't ate for over 24 hours. I was starving, and pushing for an hour was really exhausting. So finally, at about a little before, like, or around 3:15 I'd say, the doctor came back in the room because I was pushing with the nurses. The doctor came back in the room, checked the baby, and Scarlett's heartbeat had rocketed. So it was up to like the 200s, so the doctor started to panic. And then of course I started to panic because I'm like, I can't push anymore, like I can't get her out. So the doctor, it was like go time. The doctor came in, she used the vacuum suction to help get Scarlett out, and they did do an episiotomy. And it all helped. Scarlett was born at 3:25 that day, and she was completely healthy. They thought that because her heart rate was rising that she may have a temperature, but she had no temperature. She was absolutely fine, and the meconium did not affect her at all either. So we were very lucky to have such a healthy baby, and it was such an amazing experience when they put her in my arms, and she literally just like stared at me. She didn't cry, she just stared at me, and we immediately had that bond, and it was just such an amazing experience. I'm gonna get emotional. Anyways, we did choose to do skin to skin immediately after birth. After I gave birth to Scarlett, we were moved to a different room, and that's the room we stayed in for that night. When she was born, Scarlett did have a tongue tie, so she did have to get the this little part under your tongue clipped. She slightly had jaundice. Her levels were really low, but she did have a slight case of it, so we did have to monitor that a little bit. But we were able to go home 23 hours after she was born. They wanted to keep us another day, but my husband and I were so ready to get out of there. It's just exhausting being in the hospital. I was ready to get home and get into our house and follow our own schedule. I don't think I mentioned this. So she was born at 3:25 on December 7th. She weighed 7 pounds, 14 ounces, and was 20 inches long. And she was 2 weeks early. I gave birth to her when I was 38 weeks and 1 day. So had I gone a full term, she would have been one big baby. So I'm happy she decided to make her appearance a little earlier. So for those of you who are new to my channel, I thought I'd introduce you to my little baby Scarlett. She is about 3.5 months old. Say hi! She's about 3.5 months old now, and she's the most precious thing that I've ever seen. I am so lucky to be her mama, and being a parent is just amazing. So if you guys enjoyed my labor and delivery story, please do me a favor, like this video, and also subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram and Snapchat.